Hello, everyone. How are y'all? Welcome to the first presidential debate of the year. It's going to be live Zoom meeting. Um, my name is Luis Benitez. I am the election commissioner for the Student Government Association. And basically, just to give y'all a quick little rundown of how this event is going to be working, we are going to be having our vice presidential candidates be going up first, and they will be answering 4 questions. Each one of them they will all be answering the same 4 questions, and with 3 minutes given to answer each question. After that, we will be moving to the question section, which where we will be asking the vice presidential candidates questions from the student body. And then once we're done with the vice presidential candidates, the presidential candidates will be going up and they will be answering 4 different questions about their campaign. And they will also be allotted the same amount of time, 3 minutes per the first initial questions. And then whenever we are going to the student body section questions, they will be allotted 2 minutes to answer each question. They will be timed just so y'all as the viewers are aware of the time signals I've already given the candidates. Whenever you see this time signal, it will mean that the candidate has 1 minute left. When you see this time signal, that means the candidate will have 30 seconds. This time signal signifies 15, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to count the final cutoff. Just so y'all are aware of the time signals I'm giving up, so y'all don't see just my finger there and just think it's weird. So, with that being said, I would just like to start off by having the vice presidential candidates introduce themselves first. So, right before we start asking the questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cameron Combs. I'm running to be vice president. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sophia Bamboris, and I'm also running to be your 2020-2021 vice president.
Hi, everyone. I'm Baktava Yasser. I'm running to be the vice president candidate on behalf of the Reform the Norm campaign.
All right, great. Guys, are y'all ready to start? Is there anybody in preference who would like to start first? I already have an order, but if y'all would like to, I also like to give the opportunity. Cam? Okay, you can go first. Just so I can make sure I have a clear order after Cam. Who would like to go after Cam?
I can go.
Okay, perfectly fine. Okay, with that being said, the first question that I'll be asking you, Cam, is, give me 5 seconds. There we go. What is your campaign platform? Time starts now.
Great. So our campaign platform is focused on SOAR. So SOAR is 4 different pillars that focuses on synergizing outreach, assuring, as well as redefining our campus. So when we speak about SOAR, we want to be a voice for all of our students. And we want to make sure that all our students' voices are being heard on our campus. And so we plan to do this by focusing on key issues within our platform, actually. So affecting our different students on campus, we want to reform parking and transportation. We also want to work with UNT and dining services to increase services that they have that are offered, as well as we want to also increase different services offered within Willis Library, as well as our other university libraries on campus. And so just expanding on these different services. So when I'm speaking on our initiative, our textbook drive, so we want to actually implement some sort of service where we can increase the textbook drive that we actually have offered for students. So we have a textbook drive actually in Willis Library that students can utilize for their courses. So for those main classes like your political science, your basic math classes. But there's not a lot of books that are offered for those students. So we want to expand on those resources. We actually want to ask and see if students can actually donate books to Student Government Association, where students can come and actually grab those books in some sort of either a exchange for another textbook or an exchange for a UNT t-shirt, however that looks. But we definitely want to increase the textbook donation drive. When we speak with food insecurities, we talk about food on the go. So food on the go looks like getting to-go boxes in our dining halls. So we have many students that might not have that 7-day plan. They may have that 5-day plan. They may not have a plan that offers them the time or gives them the necessary resources that they need to be able to actually get a full meal every day. And so during those weekends or during those weeks or those late night study times, they can have food with them where they can use those dining hall swipes that they have, because since we have like up to 99 swipes. And then when we talk about parking and transportation, that is one area that, every campaign, I believe, every ticket is always talking about that every year. And so with that, we want to make sure that our students are getting the proper parking on campus that they should deserve. So making sure that parking spots are not being oversold. So not parking spots, but parking passes are not being oversold, as well as also seeing if we can possibly get parking passes accredited to students' accounts. Just because I feel like it's very simple just to go ahead and add parking passes to our accounts, and then by that December time we can go ahead and have those parking passes paid off.
Okay. Does that complete your time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Sophia, would you like to go next? I'll answer the same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I'm good. Thank you. So the basis of our campaign is for you, meaning that our priorities will be all-encompassing for you, both individually and collectively. Our mission is to advocate for changes that better serve students' academic and campus life experiences. So we're running a campaign that makes students feel like what we're doing is truly for them and their objectives. Students should feel in control of how their university is shaped, and our candidacy intends to act on your behalf, promoting policies for you and all of students. One of the first things you will see under our candidacy is continuing to honor our Mean Green Pride by pursuing better practices and more eco-friendly alternatives around campus. We think our university works hard to create sustainable and impactful opportunities, and we really want to build upon that. By taking it a step further and creating a donation program during moving seasons and an e-waste recycling drive. So when the time comes for students to move out of their residence halls, a lot of students throw away items such as food, clothes, and even furniture. And these items can be collected and sent to those in need. And by donating these unwanted items and non-perishable foods, we can give back to the community that we so love and adore. An e-waste recycling drive is another program that allows for the university and students to get rid of broken and outdated electronics that can be recycled. We also know that commuting to campus and parking on campus and having that accessibility is important, and we want to start taking these grievances and making a progressive change. That being said, we're going to set up more frequent meetings with SGA and the transportation director, as well as expanding on the e-ride, Lyft, and shuttle bus services for the protection and safety of students. Additionally, we'd like to work alongside administration and students to tackle salient issues such as mental health and sexual assault. By breaking the stigma around the topic and offering more information, availability at orientations and around campus throughout the semester. It's important that students have these resources to learn about mental health issues such as depression and anxiety, how to identify these behaviors, and the campus resources that we have to utilize. There's so many services offered on campus that are underutilized, and we want to highlight these so people know that there are safe places they can go on campus and safe people they can talk to. And by creating an open environment and events that openly discuss the reality of battling mental health and sexual assault, we can help those students affected come together and reform the stigma around these topics. Lastly, we also recognize that housing is an important issue with students. And because of the increase in freshmen, a lot of upperclassmen have been pushed out of on-campus living and are struggling to find places for next year. So we promise to advocate for upperclassmen dorm living and resolve the unorganized process that comes with applying for housing. And that's about it.
Thank you so much. Would you like to go up next? Would you like me to repeat the question, Yusir?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So may I start?
Yeah, go for it, please. Time starts whenever you do.
Okay. Our campaign is reforming the norm, and under our campaign, we have 7 main pillars of ideas we would like to reform, and under that, we have next steps and specific changes we would like to see. The first one is mental health and student safety, and under that, we would like to implement 2 unexcused absences, additional resources for the CTS, which is the Counseling and Testing Services, and the DOS, which is Dean of Students, and creating a 311 number. Next, our next pillar is accessibility. We would like to have closed captioning for all online courses. Just like in our campaign video, we made sure we had closed captions. One of our campaign team members also did sign language in our video. And next, we would also like to ensure student orgs are ODA friendly. Our next pillar is equity campus climate. We would like to hire additional trainers, increase funding and to offices for diverse communities, and expand support groups offered by the CTS, again, which is the Counseling and Testing Services. Our next pillar is SGA restructure. We'd like to give students a seat at the table, implement oversight committees, expand executive from 8 to 13, and create an online appointment system. The next one is parking and transportation. We would like to increase shuttle to outer-lying lots and decrease the fee and frequency of citations. My friend, she got a citation just by going to work during this pandemic, which is a big issue. Next is institutional affordability. We would like to see transparency of fees. We want the students to know where their money is going to, feasible race policy, and alternatives to paying a $20 copay at the Student Health and Wellness Center, maybe even doing like installments or just another way to better assist and serve students. And the last pillar is student housing. We would like to establish a database for student feedback to make sure their voices are being heard. And then we would also like to fight for upperclassmen for on-campus housing.
All right, will that be completing your answer?
Yes, Lou, thank
Okay,
you.
perfectly. So we're going to be moving on to our second question. Cam, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. What do you see as the top 3 issues facing our student body today?
All right. So, excuse me. So 3 issues that I see that our student body is facing is, the first one I would say is burnout within leadership. So one thing that I've noticed in being a leader and growing within the different positions that I've been a part of is that the lack of students who are being involved within different leadership positions. The numbers continues to dwindle down, and we continue to always see applications being not expanded, but extended deadlines. And so figuring out exactly how can we figure out why these situations are happening, so the one thing within our platform is a student focus group that we centered on retention within student leadership. And so speaking with these students and asking them what are the issues that are keeping you from joining these student organizations, that are keeping you from doing these student leadership positions. Another one that I would also focus on is COVID-19. So of course we're going on with this pandemic right now. And so the biggest thing is going to be coming back to campus and figuring out exactly how do we tackle it and how do we as a campus unite back as one. And so challenge our administration to, think about possible outcomes when it comes to crises like this. So being more proactive, and so not saying that they were not proactive whatsoever, but having, the policies, the processes all figured out so that when they get to that point, if there's a whole national pandemic going on, that we know exactly what to do and how to do it. And so definitely everyone was adaptable in this entire process, professors, students, but definitely coming back to campus, I definitely can see that it's going to end up being an issue within our mental health, possibly because we're going to get back in these classrooms and it's going to be that switch, that change, because we weren't used to it. Our semester has definitely been cut short very soon, and we're going to have to figure out exactly how can we get back into the swing of things. And so, our students shouldn't have to create petitions about why we deserve refunds within the different things, whether that being our housing, whether that being our meal plans. And so, asking, having the administration to figure out those issues and challenging them and making sure that we're at the table and that we're getting those things pushed across. And then mental health, like I was just saying. So this upcoming fall, we're going to have that challenge of possibly having a lot of cases where students are going to be having issues of being able to control their coursework as well as their organization work and their work within their job. And so we're going to have to figure out exactly how do we help these students, so making sure that there are programs that are in place to help these students. So I'm wanting to, or Michael and myself are actually wanting to see more mental health initiatives going on throughout the entire year, not only during hot seasons.
Thank you. And I do apologize, I forgot to do the 15-second mark, and that is on me. Moving forward, Sophia, are you ready to answer the question, or would you like me to repeat it?
No, I'm ready, thank you.
All right, perfect.
So what Ryan and I see as being the top 3 issues facing our students today is transportation, housing, and like Cameron mentioned, mental health. We recognize students are frustrated with campus parking and transportation, and again, we want to acknowledge these grievances. We want to set up more frequent meetings with the transportation director and expand on those services that UNT offers, so that students feel safe and protected, especially at night when they're walking around on campus at any designation, not just from Apogee to campus or from campus to Apogee, but on all four corners. Secondly, after seeing firsthand the problems students had applying for student housing and the limited space available for upperclassmen, we wanted to make it a priority to amend the housing application process, as well as fight for upperclassmen living. Living on campus, it offers students a chance to develop important life skills, and it's a great opportunity to meet people and build lifelong connections. And being in the dorms, it makes it more accessible for students to utilize everything that university life has to offer, especially academically. Not only that, but there's students who depend on student living because they live out of state and can't commit to a 12-month apartment lease, or for financial aid reasons, stay in the dorms. Lastly, one of the main issues that Cameron mentioned as well, we are in the middle of a severe COVID panic, and it's hard for students who have been abruptly moved out of their dorms and had to transition to these online classes. Students are experiencing depression, anxiety, stress, a number of disorders, or worse, even suicidal thoughts, not just now, but during any school year. So this can be a difficult thing to overcome, especially at such a critical and pressuring time in our lives. And so we want to make sure we break the stigma around mental health and vocalize as an organization the resources available for students so they know there are safe places and people to go to rather than isolate themselves.
All right, thank you so much. Yusira, would you like me to repeat the question or no?
No, thank you.
All right, just go whenever you're ready. Time starts whenever you do.
The top 3 issues we see within our students today is accessibility, empty promises, and representation. Specifically with accessibility, students are not very aware of the resources we have on campus, and even if they do and they use them, they're not adequate enough to effectively help students on a consistent basis, such as like the Student Health and Wellness Center, the Counseling and Testing Center, the ODA, and all other campus resources. In fact, Noah and I, we had a girl reach out to us sharing her concerns within the ODA and the processes for sharing the letter about why she needs accommodations and the proof of that to her professors. And we already heard her and we're on it. And we just want to know, like, that's the reason why, like, it's one of our top 3 issues, because we already see people struggling with that. Especially for me, I do have testing anxiety, so I am appropriately registered under the ODA, and I hear a lot of concerns on a day-to-day basis. And with empty promises, this can go under 2 sides, with specifically within the deans and within SGA. And while they're doing amazing work, there's always room for improvement. We want, the university says like they're listening, but we think they could do so much more. SGA is the middleman between the student body and the dean. However, as someone who is a student from the, who is a part of the student body and has not been a part of SGA the entire time, it can feel like they're out of reach just because there can be improvement on communication. And SGA feels the same way about the dean, so we just need to improve communication, improve listening. So whenever we give promises or the university gives promises, we know that it will happen and improve communication, so we're up to date about what's going on and we're not worried about, oh, is this going to happen? For example, the innocent with the woman who said the racial slur and how the university said they're on it. However, the general student body doesn't know the steps they're taking to effectively help that. And then next is within representation. I know for me, I did not start off in SGA as a freshman. So if students want to get involved later in their university career, they may feel hesitant since they have not started in the beginning. And if I get into the position, I can allow, I can be that person that others can look up to and say, oh, she's doing that. She didn't start from the beginning. I can do it as well.
Will that complete your question? Okay.
Sorry?
Will that complete everything?
Yes, I'm sorry you broke out. I'm so sorry about
Oh,
that.
no, you're fine. That's what happens with Zoom meetings. Um, with that being said, Cam, are you ready for the third question to start it off? Okay. Remember, time will start whenever you do. Let me reset that. The third question will be, how would your relationship be with students on a day-to-day basis? What sort of initiatives would you take as the vice president and president to try to engage the entire student body?
All right. So as far as my day-to-day basis of my relationship, so actually I'm an actual intentional person, very passionate and caring, and I love connecting with students on different kinds of levels. And so I think on a day-to-day basis, it can definitely fluctuate as far as exactly how it would look for me engaging students. But the first thing that I really would love to do is an open door policy within our staff. And so twice a week, having our schedules cleared for students to be able to walk in and, like, when I say clear, like almost that entire day where students are able to walk in and speak with us about issues. You know, I see that the biggest thing, being president of BSU, being the biggest thing that I've noticed is that students, they come by my office every now and then. And, you know, I allow the students and I'm speaking with them about the different issues that are going on. And a lot of the times, the students are able to somehow figure out their solution of the issue, or I'm able to connect them with that solution of somehow. And generally, a lot of those solutions can be figured out face to face. And so, like all of us, we have student concerns cards. So BSU, SGA, they both do them. And I utilized them actually last year when I was effectively running I was chairing the Students Concerns Committee. And a lot of the concerns were coming more of in person. And a lot of those concerns we were able to figure out in person, and how do we better represent those students. And so also going on top of that, town halls. So having more and more town halls for students to actually, so for us, not even students, but for us to actually hear about the different issues that students do have going on campus. Having more opportunities for those students to speak with us one-on-one. And then another initiative that I would like to introduce, or myself and Michael would, is the tabling initiative. And so, you know, outreach director is the person who's generally over outreaching within students, organizations around the campus, right? But the one thing that I feel like I noticed is that within SGA, every exec position kind of stays within their own column of work. And rather than, now I'm an outsider looking in, so I'm sure there's a lot of collaborative work going on, but definitely I feel like it would be very, very beneficial if, you know, we ask our exec members to come and table once a semester, and, you know, that president and vice president, maybe they're tabling for that once, I don't know, in October, and, you know, that student's able to connect with that president and vice president, and they're able to have, you know, they're able to be there and have that conversation, and it's authentic conversation, and that way they can figure out exactly how can I better assess your issue that you're having on campus.
Okay, thank you. Sophia, are you ready? Would you like me to repeat the question, or time's ready whenever you are?
I'm good, thank you. So our relationship with students will continue to evolve as we cultivate student engagement outlets and effectively mobilize what SGA can build upon to better represent each outlet. So understanding campus needs and student initiatives is a priority, and if we are so elected for you, the student, we intend to continue communicating with you guys on a day-to-day basis. And by establishing productive communication channels with student organizations, it allows for students and ourselves to have successful building blocks to serve everybody efficiently. UNT is a community that is a unique and diverse culture, and we promise to embrace the uniqueness as well as represent the diversity our student body is made up of. Outside of university-sponsored events and regularly scheduled meetings, I think the best way to take initiative and continue engaging the student body is to strengthen coalitions with all organizations and maintain such outreach through UNT's Student Government Association. We'd also like to see more SGA representation at various athletic events, concerts, and activities on campus, participating alongside students of the university. How better to understand the needs of students than by immersing ourselves into the various programs and campus activities that students are involved with. Student feedback is how we're able to make UNT a better place. And I want SGA to be seen as an organization that embraces feedback with openness, and is ready to listen as well as amplify the spirited voices of undergraduate students.
Thank you so much. Does that fully complete your answer?
Yes.
Okay. Yasira, would you like to go next?
Yes.
Time starts whenever you do.
Okay. The relationship I would like to build with students on a day-to-day basis is one that is personal, genuine, and empathetic. I know what it's like as like being a part of the student body and like an outsider looking in. So I understand that for me, the best way I want to reach out is by going to them, whether that be seeing them in the halls or taking more initiatives to have events to reach out to other students, such as if I were to be vice president, I would want to set up meetings with organizations or executive organizations to actually go to them and ask them, what can I do? How can I help you? And for me, honestly, I'm very introverted. So if I want, as a leader, I have executive experience. So it took me a while to gain the qualities I need to reach out to people, say, hey, what do you need? Even for introverts, like I know how to approach others. In fact, with Noah and I, we didn't know each other, but we came together because of our experiences, our passion for UNT and serving others, and we became friends through this campaign. And we first were like coworkers, and then we became friends. So I know what it's like to build a friendship from the bottom up, and I have other like organizations that I'm a part of that I know like that I've experience for, and yeah.
Thank you so much. Cam, are you ready for the fourth question, last one?
Yeah.
Okay. What prior experiences do you have on campus, and how have they prepared you to become the vice president of the Student Government Association?
All right, so I'm going to talk about 3 different positions that actually have that have given me the experience that I need to effectively be able to run this position and run Senate. And so the first position I'm going to speak about is being an orientation leader. So actually last summer, I had the opportunity of being an OL. And so that position actually gave me the confidence that I needed to be the, exemplary leader that I am on campus, and definitely giving me those different challenges to be able to adapt in rough situations and situations where we didn't have maybe we didn't think about part B or part C to the situation. And it also made me very honest within my position. And so when I say honest, I mean speaking with my students and being honest with them about what a college experience is like, how UNT is. And I'm not talking about I was saying bad things, but I'm talking about I was being very genuine with these students, and I was actually giving them the effective material that they needed to actually, grow within their life as a college student on campus. The next position I'm going to speak about is being president of the Black Student Union. And so right now I'm actually the sitting president of the Black Student Union. And the first thing I'm going to speak about is making tough decisions. And so, with being a student leader, you have to make just tough decisions. And you're always going to be put in those certain situations where it's either, hey, remove this org or leave this org. And so within BSU, one faction that we have that's very, very different than a lot of organizations is that we're an umbrella organization. And we actually oversee or we actually have organizations that are under our umbrella. And so we have around 30 organizations, and president roundtables are led by myself and my exec board. They have all different kinds of things that they have going on. And so the one thing that we've actually faced this year was figuring out exactly how do we give them what they need to effectively be leaders within the organizations. And the one thing that I found out is giving our leaders more networking opportunities to actually be able to gain something out of being a president. Because I feel like we get to that level and where it's that stagnant part of our leadership. And so how do we go higher? And I think we're at that point where we need to network more. And then the last one I'm going to speak about is being Director of Internal Affairs for the Black Student Union. So that was the prior year. I was actually the Director of Internal Affairs. And so that's the liaison between our Black students on campus as well as our exec board. Or we could also look at it as our presidents under us and our exec board. And so just being that main contact of understanding things and what's going on. So the one thing that actually gave me the experience to actually be able to effectively run Senate is my experience of Robert's rules. And so within my position, I actually had to learn Robert's rules because I was the spokesperson for our exec board. And so understanding exactly how Robert's rules works, doing from a read, question, discussion, vote. And so going from those different motions and making sure that you have to motion and there has to be at least 2 motions coming through. And so that definitely gave me that extra experience that I needed to actually be able to effectively run this position.
Thank you so much, Sophia.
So I feel as though I've been ready to be vice president through experiences I have had and gained leading up to this time in my life. Although I'm new to the arena and have not held a previous position in SGA, I don't feel like it diminishes my capability and what I can do as vice president when elected. Prior to running for a presidential position, I have been involved with the Green Brigade Marching Band, Go Mean Green, and I served on the leadership team. This past year, I served as a trumpet coordinator and a uniform manager. Through these positions, my duties consisted of assisting in managing the section and overseeing inventory, storage, dispersal, and care of our uniforms. I feel it is through these leadership experiences and positions that I have held that I have gained the necessary skills to effectively manage and lead others. I have learned that a feat in any leadership role requires the ability to be responsible, accountable, effectively communicate goals and objectives, conflict manage, and my commitment to the task at hand. My determination and strong-minded will are some of my most powerful characteristics, and you will see them shine through as your vice president. Most importantly, I'm a student here at this university who has pride and adoration for this campus, and it is because I'm a student that I know that the things we need will be implemented with better systems in transportation, housing, mental health, sexual assault, accessibility, and affordability. I'm a student who has witnessed what other students need and want on campus and what they are actively searching for through their university. And I will ensure that students are prioritized and reflected upon when making proactive policy changes, because it is them that have the power to enable the change to support an organization like SGA.
All right, thank you. Are you ready?
Yes. For starters, within SGA, I have not had an internal position, but I am a part of the Mental Health Coalition Committee, which is like an external committee. So I do have some workings in SGA, but alongside that, I have held 3 officer positions in different organizations. The first one being I'll be going into my 3rd semester as an executive for Active Minds, which is a mental health awareness and education group where we just break the stigma around mental health. And I am the secretary for that. And I'm also the public relations for Ignite. And I am the sergeant at arms for a fraternity called Alpha Phi Omega. And as sergeant at arms, I am the leader and in charge of Robert's rules, bylaws, and making sure everybody, and like just to oversee everybody in chapter and executive meetings. I hold bylaw committees, so we go through the bylaws, make changements. I have experience in writing amendments, so I understand there is some hesitance that I don't have Senate experience, how I'm not in the Senate seat. However, I have experience of being in the VP seat, because the VP is the overseer of Senate. I have been in their position within my fraternity, and I think that makes me qualified for the position. And alongside that, I'll be going into my 2nd semester of Green Jackets, and through that I have had amazing networking opportunities. I have had like meetings with Dr. Witt and other work on the board, so I have been exposed to that even though I'm not directly within SGA. And along with other organizations I am in, such as like ASA, NBLSA, I have had like community service experience and like working with others and knowing what it takes to collaborate and what people need and what they're looking for.
All right, thank you. So that will be completing our vice presidential question section, but we will be moving on to the student section with the vice presidents. With that being said, would y'all be comfortable with keeping the same order for the questions? Yeah, okay. Great. So for the first question, this one hits hard at home for everyone. It's about parking. If you also, just to let y'all know, if you need me to repeat the question, just let me know, but I got y'all. Restricting the amount of parking permits that the university sells puts commuter students at risk of not being able to acquire a pass and are subsequently left without available parking. If your administration is successful in preventing UNT from overselling parking permits, how will you address the situation where students are left without parking permits? And if you want, I can give you a 30-second time period to just think about your answer, and then you can just go in whenever you're ready. Or if you would like me to repeat the question, let me know.
Can you repeat it one more time?
Of course. Restricting the amount of parking permits that the university sells puts commuter students at a risk of not being able to acquire a pass and are subsequently left without available parking. If your administration were to be successful in preventing UNT from overselling parking permits, how will you address a situation where students are still left without parking permits?
So I guess actually that is something that is actually within our platform, which starts with actually counting spaces and accrediting and figure out exactly how many spaces do we have compared to our faculty and students, and seeing exactly how are we able to possibly split up lots. So I know a lot of the times I've had some questions with administrators about this, and it's been raised that students, of course, have more lots than faculty and staff members. But if we look across campus and if we look at the lots, we can see that faculty and staff lots are, of course, not as full as student lots, and they're not as big as student lots. And so the reason why we want to go and count these lots is because we want to be able to hold transportation services accountable, because we want to make sure that they're not oversold. But also we want to, as well as see exactly, okay, so are we able to possibly do a faculty student lot? Are we able to possibly do a faculty or just a staff student lot? Because I really believe that I'm a student who doesn't have a parking pass. I don't park on campus. I actually park off campus. So I find little spots all on the sides. I parallel park, wherever the case may be. And I don't bypass because I'm not going to fall for the gimmick. And so essentially, I'm just not going to pay the money. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to hold transportation services accountable with that. And so I'm not going to ask them for the numbers. I'm going to go count them myself. And then I'm going to then ask, okay, then can we accredit these lots that don't have that many cars in them, or they're not always full? Can we figure out exactly how can we, as well as add students in those lots? And that would be my answer to that question.
Thank you. Sophia, would you like to answer the question, or would you like me to repeat it?
I think I'm ready to answer. So I think the problem with going and counting spots is we also have to think about students and their schedules. Not everybody takes classes at the same times. So obviously a spot can be sold for, students who may take classes in the morning, and then another student who takes classes in the afternoon or evening classes. And I think that's something that needs to be registered with the transportation system, is when students go to buy these lots, I think we should create a system where we know, like, are you staying in these spots permanently because you live on campus and you need a place to store your car? Are you a commuter? Are you coming, like, what times are you coming to campus? Do you work on campus? And I agree, faculty parking lots tend to be a lot more emptier than student parking lots. And so students will park in any place they can find, and oftentimes they get cited for it. I also think there's a lot of parking spaces that just simply aren't being utilized on campus, especially when you go out to Apogee and out to some of those sports complex areas. There's a lot of parking availability out there that is just empty concrete throughout the day. And if we were to increase our student, like, e-ride, Lyft, and shuttle bus services, students could go park that far away, knowing that they have the UNT transportation to get them to campus. I think that's my answer for the question.
I'm sorry. I think you're on mute.
Oh, I am so sorry about that.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, perfect. So are you ready to answer the question?
Yes,
Or would
Louis.
you like me to? Okay, perfect. Just start whenever you're ready.
So the way I would approach this issue is looking at it from the foundational problem is within the housing website and how students purchase their parking pass. I know the past issues was that freshmen had the opportunity to get certain passes, or I even know a RA on Noah and I's campaign team. She's an RA and she got the last choice for parking spots, so she has to park so far away, and if there, God forbid, there's an emergency, she runs back to her dorm. So I think first reforming and changing who can buy parking passes first, in order of like not that one student's more important than the others, but their schedule. If they're a student worker, letting them get the parking pass first, and then going from priorities and being more clear who is equitable to get the parking pass first. And next, creating more shuttle rides that can go off campus or farther away. I know people as well who park in apartment complexes and then walk to school because they say that is easier. But we need to expand the shuttle rides because realistically there cannot always be a spot closer to campus, but if we minimize the problem in that way as well, it can overall help the situation in general.
All right, thank you so much. Are y'all ready for the second set of questions? All right.
Yeah.
All right, great. So, Cam, for the second question, again, you'll get, if you need 30 seconds or any time to like think about the question, just let me know. But the question is, what do you think SGA can improve upon within this upcoming year? And then time will start whenever you do.
So one thing that I would say is synergizing our entire campus. Yeah. So the reason why we have this main point on our platform is because we've noticed that the entire campus community is not united as one. And that starts with our Student Government Association president and vice president being unbiased in all accounts everywhere. And so the reason why I say this is that we have so many different student organizations, so many different student programs going on our campus. And I really believe that as one, we can tackle everything on this campus and we can be able to see changes within all the different communities that we are part of. If you look back actually at our last instance that we just had happen on campus, with the woman who made the racial slur on campus. And it was a beautiful thing when we saw all organizations on campus that, well, I wouldn't say all organizations, but I'm saying like student organizations that united as one and were able to find this certain group of people and to support them in that certain area. And there shouldn't be, downfalls, certain situations where it's negative, where our student orgs want to unite, where our students want to come together. We should always want to be one. We should always want to lead as one and be able to conquer all of our dreams and be able to efficiently find inclusion for all our different groups on campus, for all our different students on campus, because we've reached diversity, okay? Like now let's reach inclusivity, okay? And so I believe as one, as we unite all these student orgs, as we get all on this one page of what do we want to accomplish as UNT, then from there we are able to be UNT, to live that mean green pride, to bleed mean green. And I just believe that, as one, we are able to do it all.
Thank you so much. All right. Are you ready to answer the questions, Sophia, or would you like me to reread it?
Do you mind rereading it?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Give me one quick second. What do you think SGA can improve upon within this upcoming year?
Okay, so I briefly mentioned it before, but I think one thing that SGA can really work on is that idea of outreach, that idea of representation. I'd love to see SGA out at more UNT events, whether it's athletic events, basketball games, football games, volleyball games, or whether it's concerts. We are proud to have one of the best colleges of music or music schools in the country and one of the best jazz programs in the nation. We should see that SGA representation at those concerts so that every student feels like they are being represented, like they are being talked to, like we are not a higher up by any means, but we are here for your accessibility, and we want you to be able to come to us because we are students just like you. And by seeing SGA represented at all these different events, it shows that we care about every other organization and every other activity at UNT as well. And we're not just an inclusive organization that stays within our bubble, that we are here to serve the entire UNT grounds and all that it encompasses.
All right. Does that complete your answer?
Yes, it does.
Would you like me to reread the question, or would you can start whenever you want?
I'm okay. The biggest change we would like to see within SGA is just is restructuring SGA. First, expanding the executive board from 8 to 13 people. Therefore, we can get more people to delegate certain tasks, and we can have more representation within the executive committee, and also create a council of delegates so we can have one representative from each organization, and we can create a discussion with the organizations and with SGA and improve it with UNT overall. And I think having a set plan as to how we're going to do it and creating a time and event and an actual team to do so will help a lot, because like Sophia said, like, we are ordinary people. We just want to like serve and help everybody. But sometimes from an outside perspective, it can feel like SGA is out of reach. So I think if we get a step closer, create this council of delegates, have one representative from every single organization, get their voice heard from, like, instead of just have it being spoken like from a megaphone, have their voice be heard even louder and even more, and just restructuring how we work.
All right. Thank you so much. So I'll be completing the vice presidential section of the debate. We will be moving on to the presidential section. Will the presidential candidates please do me a favor and just introduce themselves really quickly to our audience?
I'll go ahead. Hello, everyone. My name is Noah Hutchinson. I'm running to be your next SGA president, and I'm running with my awesome running mate and VP, Bakhtavar Yalster.
Well, hi, everyone. My name is Michael Lukey, and I'm also running to be your next SGA president with my running mate, Cameron Combs, on the SOAR ticket.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Keller, and I'm running to be your next SGA president, along with my running mate, Sophia von Goris.
All right. Now that y'all have all introduced yourselves, is there a specific order y'all would like to go? If anyone would like to go first, I'd like to give up people the opportunity to choose.
Yeah, I can go ahead.
All right. Would anyone like to go after Noah? Yeah, Michael, and then okay, Ryan. With that being said, Noah, are you ready for the first question?
I am.
Okay, great. So what do you think is the biggest change you would like UNT to make, and how do you plan on implementing that?
I think the largest change that I would want to see UNT make really comes down to one word, and that's action. Bakhtavar mentioned earlier, there's so many empty promises that we hear from the administration, that we hear from, honestly, SGA, that we hear from different organizations. And I think it's really time that we have an SGA that's backed by policy and backed by experience to really actually follow through on everything that they said. So today's students really deserve to have a university that proactively supports them and meets each and every student where they're at. So I actually wanted to use this time to touch back on a discussion we were having about transportation earlier. And I think this is a great example of why we're super excited for this ticket. So I actually served as the communications director for this past year and had the opportunity to serve on the Transportation Advisory Committee. And within that, that's pretty all-encompassing, learning really a lot about how transportation works, and even getting to be on the search committee to hire the new senior director of transportation. So I think what's really awesome is I'm going into this already having a really awesome relationship with the new senior director. So I know how to approach him and how to tell him, hey, we really want to have more programming. Hey, we really want to have more forums. And the top things that myself and the other student on the search committee that we were looking for was, how much do they care about students? Did they even mention students? And so that was something that was on the top of our minds when we were talking about transportation. I think the next thing too is we're hearing a lot of really awesome things about transportation. And what's actually really exciting is a lot of that's already happening. So with this new year coming up, students will actually already be able to put their fees onto their student account. So that takes back some of those financial burdens, and they're able to put it onto financial aid. The next thing too about transportation, and I won't spend the whole time talking about this, I just think it's really important, is the fact that our campus is growing more and more. And so we're running out of these inner campus lots. And so it's really important that we start today to go ahead and building these shuttle services to the outerlying lots. And so I think things like that really prepares us to start action from day one and not have that learning curve as to who's in charge of this and who's in charge of that. We're ready to start from day one. And really, I'm running because students deserve a candidate that enacts those real changes and real policies. And I got into this because I've been in the room where SGA has made good decisions, but I also know where we can grow. So when students wanted to stand up for the environment, I was a part of the team that brought together the Denton Climate Strike. When students said that they wanted to stand up against yet another episode of racial incompetence on this campus, I made sure, as my position as communications director, that every single media outlet across the state knew what was happening and could really voice our student activism on our campus. And when students wanted more ways to get involved in SGA, I implemented a communications team to really expand SGA and start the change that I want to see. So the biggest thing is action.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Michael, are you ready to answer the question, or would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, I'm good. So oftentimes as a UNT student, I feel like we're constantly being told that our voices matter. But when it comes time to make decisions that directly affect us as a student body and our voices on this campus, oftentimes we're not being heard nor represented. So something that I would like to challenge the administration to do, and how I would like to this change to be implemented within our student body, would be that when decisions are being made that are directly facing us and that are directly going to be facing what we are doing as a student body, whether that be such things as service fees, residence and housing issues, such as upperclassmen not getting priority to freshmen and newer students on campus, or student representation in these decision-making places. So pretty much I'm just challenging administration and asking that they are willing and open to give more students' voices the opportunity to be heard. We are running to be the voice for the undergraduate student body, obviously, and we need to have the opportunity of being heard when decisions that are directly affecting us and decisions that are directly affecting the future of this university. So as far as the administration implementing that goes, I would like to challenge the administration to invite us, the student body president and vice president, into more of these conversations and meetings, as well as creating a student coalition or a roundtable group, something of that sort, that will essentially, students will be allowed to be involved within the decision-making process in some regards. So from a student perspective, it makes absolutely like no sense for all of the decisions that directly affect us to be made by people who it will not even be affecting. So right now, currently the Board of Regents member representing all students on this campus is a graduate student. How is that supposed to represent all students on this campus when there are about 32,000 students who are pursuing their undergraduate studies? So pretty much, I would like for the administration and the Board of Regents to be able to add a seat to the board so that there will be equal representation from the undergraduate side of things as well as the graduate side of things, and so that all student voices on this campus are heard and represented fairly.
All right, thank you. Will that be completing your answer?
Yes.
Okay. Ryan, would you like me to repeat the question? Are you ready to answer?
No, I'm fine, thank you. So the one main thing that I want to change is making students our #1 priority, making their voices really heard. You know, we saw just recently, due to this COVID-19 pandemic, we witnessed how student voices can shake the university and make the university really give out its money to the students, giving back their refunds. You know, we saw that their Mean Green Fund, how they gave the COVID-19 more money for people who would need it. You know, you would have to say, are you affected by your jobs and things like that. We need to make students a #1 priority. That being said, along with transportation, we also have to bring back about parking. You know, every time I listen to students, they always say, oh, you're an SGA senator. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, parking. That's the first thing they think about. It's tiring whenever you hear it, but it is an actual issue that students are facing. They are facing with over parking permits being out everywhere, that's the last thing that's on their mind, having to pay amounts of money, even though they have to pay rent and things like books. They're not worried about parking and things like that. And then the other thing is transportation, as far as it's like bus routes and things like that. I know in SGA, we had a meeting with the director and we talked about ways that we could increase the transportation and how we could expand the e-lift and or the e-ride and the lifts. I've been talking to last semester, had the opportunity to talk to some of the bus drivers that are operating these buses. They should tell me the behind the scenes kind of things, and saying how that these buses are just not working up to what they should be doing. Some students, they see that buses are then breaking down. I see, one of my bus drivers said that the Champion buses were breaking down. The transportation has no idea. They're not really set in, like, they have internal problems basically. And so they need more they need more money and focus on what they should be doing for the students, because in the end, it's the students that are affected by these problems. If a bus is down, then a student is late to class. Things like that is a domino effect, and we need to focus on the starting problems that students can face. And that's why we should make students a number one priority. We should think about them whenever whenever it takes time to change.
All right, thank you so much. Noah, are you ready for the next question?
I am.
All right, so what are your plans to increase participation among individuals inside and outside your administration? What about upperclassmen who don't have time?
Yeah, so I like this question because it highlights something that a lot of students are feeling. So me personally, I have 2 part-time jobs on top of 18 hours of classwork, on top of the organizations I'm involved. So I fully understand what it means to not have time. And I understand how difficult it is to see these big problems on campus and not know where to go in order to become a student activist. And I think really that needs to start with SGA, and that starts from the top. That starts from restructuring SGA. So on the executive board this past year, I've seen what changes need to take place within exec in order to make sure that we can have the human resources and bring the ideas to the table. So the first thing that I would do is hire a director of recruitment and membership. And so that person's sole job would be to recruit super awesome people to the team, whether that be executive or admin staff, and then also make sure that we're retaining those people. That's something that we've seen a big problem with over the course of this past administration and the administration before that, and the administration before that, is we can't retain people. And that has to start with us being able to hire someone for that to be their full-time job. And then I think the next thing is, Bhakthavar mentioned this a little bit earlier, but implementing the Council of Delegates. So the whole idea behind that is to be able to give student organizations a seat at the table. So maybe an upperclassman doesn't have time to come and run for Senate next year or come to join the executive board, but they're in another organization and they want to have their voice heard. And so the whole point of the Council of Delegates is to have this delegation of student organizations to represent the student life aspect of campus. So whether that means ASA is coming to the table with an idea, or maybe that means BSU is coming to the table with an idea of change that they really want to see happen within the administration. And so those are 2 really big components, hiring a director of recruitment and membership, and then implementing a council of delegates, that I think would really attack head on this declining rate of membership and engagement with SGA.
All right, thank you. Michael, are you ready to answer the question, or would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, I'm good.
All right.
So pretty much our first plan would be to create a House of Representatives. So pretty much this would be comprised of student leaders who would represent their respective organizations, and essentially like a roundtable meeting where organization leaders can come to a central location in order to resolve issues and create partnerships and collaborations and different things of that sort. As well as involvement with the SGA Senate, we believe that creating unique opportunities and being fully transparent with the senators and people in SGA, that retention engagement will increase. So what we are proposing to do is implement annual legislation roundtables where senators and executive members can come and pitch their ideas, work with senators and different people in SGA to get their ideas across and probably pass them through a resolution or a bill or something like that. We are also proposing to create more tabling opportunities for senators in their respective colleges and around campus. Oftentimes, I feel like we see senators just tabling within the union and we don't see them representing their colleges in their specific buildings, different things like that. So that is definitely something that I would like to work upon, as well as having networking socials and opportunities that are exclusive for just senators, and welcoming senators to work directly with the SGA executive staff. So with them being able to have more opportunities just exclusively for senators, I feel like that will kind of bring back that level of prestige to that position, and will kind of encourage students and just be able to drive them to want to be in the Senate. And then just working with the executive staff more would be just like being able to have them shadow the current executive staff if they are interested in running for a position within the upcoming year, and different things of that sort. So this will allow us to push our senators to create more change on our campus, and ultimately help our university soar to new heights. So we also plan to shift some of the focus back onto the development of the students within the students within the SGA intern program, sorry. We plan to engage them with more workshops, more professional opportunities, and give them valuable information that will help them on in life and in their career throughout college as well. Student leadership is something that is very important to both of us. And by focusing on the intern program, I feel like we are helping students find what they're passionate about, and we are helping them, and we're building and shaping them into the next wave of student leaders within our UNC community. Another idea would be student groups focused on, centered on retention and leadership. So we would do this in collaboration with different campus departments. For upperclassmen who said that they don't have time, we need to be meeting students where they are at in different ways. So I think that we can do a lot of different things to reach these students as well.
Thank you so much. Ryan, are you ready to answer the question, or would you like me to repeat it?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Going off of what Michael said, the same thing as with the Student Senate and the Executive Board, there needs to be a fine line between those two. There needs to be communication between those two. I know that for the Executive Board, there wasn't a lot of transparency with the Student Senate. We lost a lot of trust with them going into the middle of the semesters. And so there needs to be always transparency, getting those executive members to talk to student senators, to talk about the legislation that they're making. I like the idea of making a workshop for the legislation to happen, so we could all collectively get our ideas together and focus on what students really need and what our constituents really need. When it comes to the outside and getting outside participation, same thing as what Sophia said. We want to get SGA more out there. We want to go to athletic events such as football games, have us on the field, tell the students, hey, this is your SGA. We are here to represent you. Put on the Jumbotron, our Twitter handle, Instagram, everything like that, so students and the community know that SGA is for them. Same thing going with concerts. SGA puts on these concerts, and it's a great idea to get more students to know each other and get singers here and everything like that. And so to have SGA there and to be involved in all that stuff is great. One thing that we do really well is tabling, and we get a lot of people supporting us, and we get a lot of people asking how they can get involved in SGA as a senator, how they get involved on the committee and things like that. And we talk to them and we tell them, there is these ways you have to do it. You have to fill out these applications and things like that. And in the meantime, you could talk to the vice president and they will be in touch with you. And so just reaching out with more tabling events and getting on to the university events that UPC holds. I really like what UPC does, and really get SGA out there. They really need to come out and be more involved. They need to know their faces. Students really need to know who represents them. And I believe that under my administration, we could really do that.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Noah, are you ready to move on to the third question?
Yes.
All right. Great. For the third question, how do you plan to engage with our commuter students and 100% of our online students at the moment if this were to continue?
Yeah. So these past few months, we've definitely seen the power of this shifting the student body really shifting to be able to be adaptable to these online methods. And so I think that's really important that SGA also learns how to shift to this. And so year after year, we see more and more commuter students coming to UNT from across the DFW area. And so to accommodate that, I think the first step with SGA is to figure out how to offer more nightly methods of engagement. So maybe that's offering more town halls at night or fluctuating times. The next thing specifically for commuter students too is to work with counseling and testing services, to work with them to make sure that they're offering support groups in different appointment times later in the evening, so that way commuter students can benefit from all of those resources. And that goes across the board with all of the different resources that UNT offers. I think for online students, the best thing that we can do, and that we've started to do a little bit more this semester in SGA, is virtual town halls. So things like going live on Twitter or doing different things with the website, and along those lines, just figuring out different methods to really shift our focus from in-person to virtual. I really believe that the student body will bounce back from this, but it'll take time. Once we get back from this, we'll be so used to online classes and so used to these online meetings that it'll just be what we default to. So I think it's really important that we shift to these virtual meetings. The next thing is creating an online appointment system for students to contact their senators. So a big thing is that we have 2 senators here tonight, and I'm sure that they would agree, is that getting students to really work with them to get legislation is something that's really important. Any student can write legislation on campus and have a senator co-sponsor it. And that's something that a lot of students don't realize. And that's going to be something that I would love to work towards, but that has to start with being able to put senators and students in contact. And I think a lot of that starts with senators, but it can also start with the administration. The next thing for online students is to transition how we take concerns and how we gauge what the student body is wanting from us. So that means transitioning from our concern cards to an online form. So students don't have to come into the office to write down what they're concerned about, hand it to us, and then hope that we do something about it. They go online to our website, they fill out the form, and they send it directly to us, and it goes right to what would be our Senior Director of Administrative Affairs, and their sole job is to make sure that they're vetting all of these different concerns and making sure that we're really listening to students. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, in addition to action, in addition to being able to act on day one with this administration, is knowing where to put those concerns. So if someone has a concern about transportation, we know who to go to. If someone has a concern about where a crosswalk should go, we know who to go to. If someone has a concern about lighting, we know who to go to. So I think overall how we engage with commuter students is shifting our focus and being more prepared and offering more resources that accommodate the needs of each and every student, so that way we can meet them where they're at.
All right, thank you, Noah. Michael, would you like me to read the question, or you can go whenever you want to?
Thank you. So ways that I would plan on engaging with our commuter students and online students would be to engage more and partner with student activities and off-campus student services. So this past year, I've had the opportunity to work as a campus life ambassador with the Office of Student Activities, and I've built a lot of really good relationships with the administrators and people that work in that office. So just being able to partner with them and offer more events that are tailored kind of towards commuter students and online students is something that I think would be crucial in bridging the gap between them and then obviously us. Another initiative that Cameron and I want to work upon this next year would be bridging the gap between UNT's main campus, Discovery Park, and UNT Frisco. I would first like to partner with these different campuses by having those conversations, having those hard conversations, and getting them involved within the decision-making process and getting them involved within Senate so that their voices and concerns are being heard. And then after understanding what some of their problems and concerns are, we can better represent them and tailor more events and programming specifically to include them. Some other things that I would say is that we need to be meeting students where they are at in different ways, especially with this whole pandemic going on. We can do it by posting and doing surveys on social media, having different posts just for students to reply to and engage with, instead of feeling like they always just have to be meeting in person, different things like that. We want to be encompassing of all students. We want everyone to feel like they're included. So this time is really like a big trial and error. I feel like with us using Zoom, everything switching to online, remotely working from home, different things like that. And I feel like possibly if we are able to offer more of these meetings, so students don't have to constantly overcrowd their schedules and constantly feel like they are needing to meet in person, I feel like that will be a really good way for us to bridge the gap between online students and commuter students as well.
All right, thank you so much. Ryan, are you ready to answer the question, or would you like me to repeat it?
I'm fine, thank you. So I think we're all in the same boat when it comes to switching from in-person classes to online classes. For me personally, I did not like it. I do enjoy Zoom. I mean, it helps, it works. I'm not really a computer fanatic, but this is really a really great idea that all universities are using. But with this transition, it just really isn't effective. You just don't feel like a student anymore of UNT. You're in this work, you have less time to talk to other people that are in your classes, to get feedback from your professors, and just things like that. And so one way to reach out to those people who already were taking online classes is to, again, get SGA out there on social media platforms. This we already did our SGA town halls, and that was a really great idea. And we had lots of students come in with questions and things like that for both commuter and online students to really ask us questions about SGA and really see what we could do for these students. And for commuter students, they're always traveling again from the DFW area and coming into either Denton and then Frisco or back too. I have a friend who goes from UNT and then also has classes in Frisco. So he is always commuting. He's always just on the road. And so he never really has time to hear about SGA, to hear about what we as student leaders are doing for the students. And so one way we could do that is just revamp our online presence. We need to get on our online and get it up to date. I keep going on SGA website and it's not up to date. There are minutes that are still missing from sessions that we've had, and it just needs to be up to date so we could be as transparent as possible with these students. When it comes to online as well, going from the university website, we could try to put an SGA tab, something like Meet SGA would be kind of cool for students to see that, oh, look, there's SGA, there's the students that represent me, how we can get these questions asked. And I like the Noah's idea that had the question cards online. I believe that was already in effect, but if it's not, then that's a great idea. I really think that we really need to put our social media and our online presence way more out there.
All right, thank you. Noah, are you ready to move on to the fourth question?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. With that being said, the last question is, how do you plan to rebuild morale and spirit among the student body after having our most recent semester cut short?
Yeah, I think this is definitely something that there isn't an easy answer to it. There's not one answer. There are students who 3-4 weeks ago were safe and sound in their on-campus apartment and are on-campus housing and now had to move back with their parents, like most of us. There are students who lost their jobs from either an on-campus job or an off-campus job that laid them off, and now they don't know how they're going to get groceries. Grocery stores are out of stock of things. So these are very unprecedented times for UNT, and I think what's great is how we're going to rebuild the moral and spirit is by showing the leadership and by showing the confidence that on day one, we're able to execute what students really want to see done. So whether that's asking for rent cancellation, some work that our wonderful VP Deanna is working on, or whether that's standing up for figuring out better systems to put in place for our dining swipes. I think Michael and Cameron's plan is a great one, but just figuring out how to build the structures in order to do that, who to talk to in order to get there. So overall, I think it comes down to communication. So the university itself is doing a lot of great things, taking the steps in the right directions. But from our perspective, a lot of the problems that we're seeing is students don't know who to go to when they have these problems because the university doesn't have a proactive relationship with the student body, like plain and simple. And so what that looks like is figuring out how SGA can partner better with the president, or how SGA can partner better with the provost, or different administrators like that, to make sure that students know the faces and know the names of who to go to when issues like this happen on campus. The next thing is making sure that students are heard, as I mentioned earlier. A big part of our platform is continuing the advocacy committees that myself and the rest of this administration implemented, which are single issue advocacy committees to really give students the platform who aren't an SGA, who are an SGA, to be able to really advocate for the things that they want. So what this looks like is continuing to leave an open dialogue for students to tell us how we can best support them. The next thing is just learning how to build the structures to make SGA sustainable, so that way when things like this happen, we don't have to go into a frenzy and wonder how we're going to get to the next day or the next day after that. So ultimately, I think how we're going to rebuild the morale and spirit is, we're a resilient campus, and so I know that we are going to come back together. But ultimately, on what SGA can do is make sure that we are advocating for each and every student and building the structures to make sure that that conversation doesn't just stop now, it doesn't just stop tomorrow, it continues past the pandemic, it continues past our administration, and it continues past the next one.
All right. Michael, are you ready to answer the question, or would you like me to repeat it?
I'm all good, thank you. So definitely I would have to agree with Noah on his last part, how he said advocating and fighting for all students on this campus. I think that is something that is very necessary for us to do. I feel as though, like I mentioned earlier, being able to have those tough conversations with people in power, like our administration and different things like that, being able to get more student representation within these different decision-making processes is something that will obviously help us to rebuild morale and student spirit among the student body. Just being that when everyone's voice is heard, that is when I feel like students will actually want to be present and want to be a part of the student body. So some other ideas that we were thinking of, obviously, would be to have more interactive and on-campus events for students to participate in within those first few weeks of school. I know that orientation and transition programs does a really big event that first week before school gets back called First Flight Week. So just offering more interactive and free events during that week and then the next upcoming weeks as well, and offering different things to students, such as like just free promotional items or food, something that's actually, I guess, grabbing the students' attention and wanting to make them come out to those events and be more involved within their student body. Another thing that I would like to do to rebuild morale within our student body would be for us to host or put on a town hall or like panel discussion in order to discuss the events that occurred this past semester, which obviously ended up cutting our semester short. This would just be a really cool way, I feel like, for us to see where our students are mentally, how we can help serve them, and how we can help them navigate this crazy, crucial time in everyone's lives, and how we can end up better serving them moving forward in this year and recovering from this global pandemic. Because if we don't talk about the situation, how are we going to move on from it? So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. Ryan, are you ready to answer the question?
I am. Thank you.
All right.
So personally, this has affected me as well. My morale and spirit are cut short, having a loss of a job, switching to online classes, trying to look for a job, or go on unemployment. This has affected me really. It's just affected me greatly. I don't know where to turn to. I just want this semester to pretty much end. It's not really a great thing that I'm facing. And I know other students are in the same boat as me. We're just not doing that great we're not feeling as great as we were before. Going on that, we really need to talk about our mental health issue. Students and across the America and nation are facing either suicidal thoughts, mental health problems. They're stressed, have anxiety and things like that. They don't know what to turn to. They have either food insecurity and things like that. And so one way that I really want to focus on is making sure that students know about these resources, that they know about these mental health resources. They could have access to the suicide hotline. They could have access to many hotlines that will help and shape their mental health. One thing that I would personally like to have is, once we come back from the university is to have things like what Michael said about First Flight, bringing that morale and spirit up with the students, welcoming them back, saying, hey, we're changed, we've learned, the university has learned, and, we could always do better, and we could always see the students strive and their morale come up. And so offering tabling events, keeping their spirits up, but also offering financial services like money management and things like that. So where students can save money when things like this happen, because none of us really expected this COVID-19 outbreak to happen and switch to online courses, get refunds, having to worry about our rent on the first and things like that. And so we really need to focus on two things, which would be the mental health, accessibility, and I already lost my train of thought, of the mental health and the other thing that I've also said, which was the tabling with the university.
All right, does that complete your answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, with that being said, that will be completing our initial presidential question section. We'll be moving on now to the student question section. And just to ask again, are y'all okay with the current order we're in right now, or would you like to change it up? We're perfectly fine with it. Okay, perfect. All right. No, again, like I said originally for the first set, if you don't feel ready to answer the question immediately, you can definitely just take 30 seconds to just collect yourself and make sure you have the answer, and then I'll start time whenever you start. But I'll start reading the question whenever you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. For the first question, how is your presidential and vice presidential campaign going to ensure that all UNT students are able to access the progress you have made on your campaign promises? How will transparency be achieved through your administration? And how will you attempt to engage as a large part of the student population as possible? Would you like me to repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, if you could repeat it for me, that'd be great.
Of course. Don't even worry about it. It's a long question. How is your presidential and vice presidential campaign going to ensure that all UNT students are able to access the progress that you have made on your campaign promises? How will transparency be achieved through your administration? And how will you attempt to engage as large part of the UNT student population as possible?
Great. So I think the first thing is transparency. And I completely agree with you. And something that we've been working on this past administration is trying to provide the full picture of everything. And unfortunately, there's just so many things that fall behind what SGA is trying to do that I think a lot of people miss. And I think it's really important to highlight that. So things like the website for SGA, unfortunately completely out of our control for a lot of different things. For things like social media, I've actually been very proud of how transparent we've been with social media. We've increased our impressions by about 3 million in the past 9 months. We've increased our following by about 70%. So I definitely think students are wanting to engage with us, and students are wanting us to be as transparent as possible. And I think that's already started. But with that being said, this kind of change takes forever. I mean, the way SGA used to work is, let's take committees, for example. Committees, for example, used to be, if you wanted to be on the Distinguished Lecture Series committee, you had to be friends or kind of be on the know with the winning administration. What we've done this semester is completely get rid of that status quo and open up the applications to make sure that each and every student who wants to be on a committee can be on it. So that transparency part is already started, but how we would continue that is right here with the campaign. With our campaign, we've been trying to be as transparent as possible with who's on our campaign team, why are they on our campaign team, what do they stand for, why do they support us, and things like explaining what SGA is on our website, so that way students really get the full picture of what they're voting for and what they're going into. So transparency is, of course, key. The next thing, as far as how people are going to make sure that we're following through with everything, October and I have actually been working on putting together, I think we're at like 8 or 9 pages now of how and why we're going to do every single piece of our platform policy that we'll be releasing tomorrow morning on our social media at Reform the Norm 20, about here's our steps, here's our timeline. So let's say we want to implement a peer ambassador program for the Dean of Students for survivors of interpersonal violence. We want to have that done by X date. Here's who we're going to talk to, and here's how we're going to get it done. So transparency starts with us, and I think it starts with this campaign, and I look forward to it.
All right, thank you, Noah. Michael, would you like me to repeat the question, or would you? You can start whenever you want. It's up to you.
Would you be able to repeat it?
Of course I can. Don't even worry about it. It's a long question. Okay. So, how is your presidential and vice presidential campaign going to ensure that all UNT students are able to access the progress that you have made on your campaign promises? How will transparency be achieved through your administration? And lastly, how will you attempt to engage as large parts of the UNT student population as possible?
So definitely something that you mentioned, and definitely something that Noah mentioned as well, and I feel like is the biggest factor in how we are going to show what our campaign is doing, is being transparent. So definitely with that entails just being open to the student body on what you're actually doing. So I feel like being able to constantly update the website, like I know that Noah said that he was having trouble with that, but just working with those right people in order to constantly update the website on your progress, on all of your campaign points, and whatever you're doing at that time is something that I feel like will help students kind of understand what's going on. As far as being able to reach as many students as possible, like I said, just being more interactive and stuff on social media, because obviously students do want to be involved with us, and students do want to be involved within SGA as well. So I feel like just allowing students with the opportunity to get involved, whether that be through interactive ads, whether that be through different things that they can respond to, I feel like will help students as well. So yeah. I think you're on mute. Are you?
Thank you so much. Is that going to complete your answer? I'm so sorry.
Yes, that's
Okay, perfect. Ryan, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you ready to answer?
I think I'm fine.
Okay.
Fine. All right. So one thing that we could make students know about our promises is on our website, and especially on outside of the SGA office, is to create a checklist of promises that we have promised to students, and make that checklist and go and check off marks that we're working on and that what we've completed, so that every student knows that we are working on this, it's in progress, and then when finished, check. There's going to be things like transportation and parking that's going to take a long while to actually be in effect. But once that happens, we could push it onto another administration and say, hey, this is what we've been working on. This is our checklist. We're not fully finished with it, or we are finished with it. Here are our ideas. And speaking of ideas, I love all of our ideas that we're coming up with. And one thing we could also do that is combine our ideas just to help the students, because that is what the students want, is for them to be our top priority. One thing that we could do to be transparent is always keep those SGA doors open, always keep that line of communication with the students open. They need to know they need to know who their senators are and who their presidents are. They need to know the people who they're going to, so they could talk about things that actually need to be changed. We need to keep that transparency. I really do not like how an executive branch feels out of touch with the students, like they don't actually hear them. And I really want to expand on those students' voices. I really want to know and talk one-on-one to students, or in a group, just to talk to people and say, hey, this is what we're doing, and this is what we should start doing, and what we should stop doing, and what we should continue doing. I really like what me and Sophia have been doing, how we go through every single issue that UNT faces, and we always say what we should start doing, what we should stop doing, and what we should continue doing. Because that just goes and check marks, and that checklist things that we know are facing UNT students. And so being transparent as possible, that is what we want to do for the students, and that is what we want to do for SGA.
Okay, thank you so much. With that being said, we're going to move on to the second question. Noah, are you ready for it?
Yes.
Okay. Students outside of the Student Government Association advocate for transparency from the University of North Texas in regard to miscellaneous student fees all the time. What plans can your administration implement to transform the advocacy these students are putting into actual progress and results? Would you like me to repeat the question, or would you?
Oh, I think I got it. Thank you. So I definitely agree, and I think that is really awesome. One of our platform points is institutional affordability, and I think we really came to that because we had a few different pieces talking about cost and money and a few different pillars, and we realized we need to make this its own thing, because when students come to college, one of their things that is on the top of their mind is, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to make the money to go here, et cetera, et cetera. So we really realized from day one that affordability needs to be on the top of our mind. And so I really like the question talking about how we're going to attack head on miscellaneous fees. What that looks like under our administration is creating a task force to really go through each and every department, looking at where their money is going, how they're spending their money, and how student fees are being affected. So as the student body president, I would chair the Student Services Committee, and that is the committee that oversees the allocation of money that goes towards a bunch of different departments. And so what that looks like is providing transparency behind that by talking about it in town halls, by posting about it on our website, and by asking students, where and how do you want your money spent? But that starts with a task force. So what that task force would do, as I mentioned, is go through each and every department and make sure that students are spending their money how they want to be spending their money. The next thing too that I think needs to be mentioned within here is the $20 copay within the Student Health and Wellness Center. That's something that there's so many legalities behind that, but I think the first step as far as providing transparency is getting, actually, I believe she's the Assistant Director for Administrative Affairs, but her name is Heather Rich, and she's the person that's really been leading the charge as far as making sure students are informed. And so what that looks like under our administration is making sure within the first few months that we're hosting these town halls and we're hosting these forums with students to make sure we're actually understanding what that $20 copay means, and we're understanding how we can move forward so that way we can care for students who don't have health insurance and care for every single UNT student who walks into that door without having the burden of financial burden.
All right, thank you so much. Now, Michael, are you ready? Would you like me to reread the question, or are you ready to answer?
Yes, would you be able to reread that, please?
Yes, I got you. Perfectly fine. All right. To reread you the question, students outside of the Student Government Association advocate for transparency from the University of North Texas in regard to miscellaneous student fees constantly. What plans can your administration implement to transform this advocacy of the students into actual progress/results? And then take your time, whenever you feel ready to answer the question, just go again. Or if you want me to reread it again, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Just give me a second. So definitely, I feel like something that I can be in agreement with Noah is just being able to be transparent about where the fees and where the money is going. So definitely, whether that be posting that on social media, putting that forth through the website, or just downright having like a town hall, like he said, would be something that I think would be really beneficial for students to kind of see where these miscellaneous fees are going. Another thing that I think would be very beneficial would be to, like in these roundtable meetings that I've been talking about like earlier on, would be to ask student organizations if they feel like their student fees and their money that they're paying to attend this university are represented in are represented for paying for what they need and where they want their money to go to in this time. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Ryan, would you like me to reread the question, or are you ready to answer it?
I'm ready to answer. Thank you.
All right.
So when in SGA as a senator, we got the opportunity to talk with the director of transportation. And when they started talking to us, they handed us a list of all these things that they are looking forward to in the future of what to pay for and what money will go to everything that they need. When I saw this list, it was a lot of numbers, practically in the millions. And so students really need to know where this money is coming from. And we had a talk with the director and said that they will be increasing the pay. They're looking into that. And so students need to know about that stuff. That is their money that they're putting into the university. And it's on us to be transparent as possible with the students. As far as financial aid and the fees that they show us, you can go on the financial aid tab and it'll show you what fees are being put towards the school, whether it comes to the union, things like that. You just have to ask access for it. So we really need to make that more accessible to students. We really need to know where our money goes toward. They also, when it comes to the university union, they also talked about upgrading the union, getting additional working doors and things like that. And so, of course, those things cost money. We need to know where that money is going towards, and the students need to know how they are going to be affected positively or negatively when it comes to their financial problems and that they're facing.
All right, thank you. Does that complete your answer?
Yes, it
All,
does.
all right, guys. With that being said, that will be completing our first presidential debate. And with that being said, I'm going to stop the recording. But just letting y'all know, in the future, please tune in for our senatorial meet and greet tomorrow. And if you would like to tune in, please pay attention to all of these lovely candidates' social media. If y'all would like, y'all can each one of y'all can start adding your social media. But please keep track. They're going to be putting out their campaigns all week, so please make sure you're keeping track of them. Would y'all like to let them know, let the audience know about y'all social media ads?
Yeah.
You can start
Oh,
now.
sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're
Yeah,
good.
so October and I's social media, we are on TikTok, Instagram. Yeah, TikTok. I'm super excited about that one. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And it's all of those is at Reform the Norm 20. And you can go to reformthenorm2020.com to learn more about the team and learn more about the campaign and learn more about the pillars that we're standing on.
Yeah, so for Cameron and I's social media as well, we are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat at Lukey Combs, so LueckeCombs. And we've been posting all of our platform points along with video testimonials from our campaign team and then people who have really liked our ideas and who wanted to show support. So yeah, just go check it out. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to go ahead and drop them.
And our social media is going to be for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Ryan Sophia 2020. On those social media sites, we're going to be expanding on the For You campaign, and we're also going to be making posts that directly go towards students, highlighting all those students and different majors that they have. So be looking out for that.
All right. Thank y'all all for introducing yourselves again one last time. And with that being said, I'll be concluding this meeting. And again, please tune in for tomorrow's video.